The first time Vela touched the floor with her new legs, she fell. Her face hit the soft mat that Merrick had laid down for safety. She gasped, her arms shaking as she tried to lift herself up. "I can't," she whispered, her voice filled with fear. Marek was beside her in seconds. "You can," he said calmly. "Just not today." He helped her back into the chair and adjusted the settings on her cybernetic legs. They were beautiful silver and smooth with tiny blue lights that blinked when she moved. Not like real legs, but something better, something made just for her every morning. Marek helped her attach them. They clicked into the base of her stumps perfectly. Then they trained first with small steps using rails for support, then with balance practice, then walking and falling and getting up again. Vela wanted to scream at times. Her body was weak, her muscles barely used for years, but Marek never yelled. Never pushed too hard, he always spoke kindly. "You're stronger than you think," he would say. She started to believe it. One day, Marek gave her a gift. It was a small bracelet with her name engraved in his own handwriting. "Why?" she asked, holding it with shaking fingers. "Because you belong to yourself now," he said. "And it's time you remember your name." That night, Vela stared at the stars outside her window. She whispered her name to herself over and over. "Vela, Vela. I'm Vela." She held the bracelet close to her chest. No one had ever given her a gift just because they cared. Soon, she was walking short distances on her own. Not fast, not far, but steady. Every step made her feel more alive, more real. She smiled more, laughed once, and even asked Marek to show her how to make tea. He did, grinning like a proud teacher. They spent hours in the lab together. He showed her how his tools worked, how circuits connected. Vela had a quick mind, and she remembered everything. He once left her with a small project fixing a broken medical bot arm. When he came back, it was already working again. "You're amazing," he told her. She looked down, embarrassed. "No one ever said that to me before." "Then the others were blind," he replied, one evening. After a long training session, Vela walked 10 full steps without help. Marek clapped softly, tears forming in his eyes. Vela looked at him, surprised. "You're crying?" "I'm proud," he said, wiping his eyes. "You're doing what they said was impossible." She walked to him slowly, her steps shaky but strong. When she reached him, she touched his arm and said softly, "Thank you, Marek." Looked at her gently. "You did the hard part." But even with all the progress, something troubled Vela. She had dreams, memories. Of the war, of her capture, of being dragged through the mud while bleeding. She woke up at night sweating, crying silently. One night, Marek found her curled on the floor, her legs still attached. Shaking, without a word, he sat beside her, wrapped her in a blanket, and held her hand. He didn't ask questions, didn't try to fix it. He just stayed. That night, she fell asleep in peace. The next day, Vela told him about her past, bit by bit, how she lost her family, how the slavers took her, how they laughed at her pain. Marek listened, his face hard, but his eyes soft. "I'm so sorry, Vela," he said, "but you're here now. I swear I will never let that happen to you again." His words didn't erase the pain, but they helped heal it, piece by piece, day by day. Then one morning, Vela stood alone. In the hallway, no rails, no support, no Marek holding her. She walked slowly but proudly into the kitchen. Marek looked up from the table and froze. "You're walking," he whispered. "I am," she said, smiling brightly. He stood and walked toward her. But she stopped him. "I want to do this alone." She walked past him, made her tea, and sat down at the table like it was the most normal thing in the world. Marek just stood there, smiling like the sun. In that moment, something shifted between them. They weren't just doctor and patient anymore. They were something deeper, something unspoken. He looked at her and said quietly, "You're a miracle, Vela." She looked back and replied, "No. You made the miracle." But both of them knew the truth. They had saved each other. Asterisk, the first sign came from the stars. A tiny red mark blinked on the ship's radar. It wasn't an asteroid or a supply drone. It was a scout fast, silent. And watching Marek noticed it during a systems check. His hands froze on the controls. He knew what it meant. Someone had found them. Someone dangerous. Vela was in the workshop, adjusting her leg sensors. She was learning quickly, now helping Marek build small tools. Her fingers moved fast, her face focused. She didn't notice the worry in his eyes. When he walked in, "Is something wrong?" she asked. Sensing his silence, Marek forced a small smile. Just space traffic, maybe someone passing by, but he didn't believe his own words. And Vela saw that. Later that night, they sat together. Marek didn't speak much, his mind racing. Vela touched his hand and asked softly, "Who would be looking?" For us, Marek didn't answer, not right away. Then he said, "People who don't like what I did, you mean? Helping me?" She asked. "Yes," he said, and proving they were wrong. Word had spread across the dark web of the galaxy. A legless slave girl now walking, building machines. And smiling again, some praised it, others called it a lie. But some those who ran the breeding programs saw it as a threat, a machine-made miracle. A challenge to their control. One morning, a strange ship landed near their hidden base. It was small and dark, with no markings. Marek told Vela to stay inside while he checked it, but she watched from the window, her heart pounding. A tall alien stepped out. Draped in black armor, his eyes cold. Marek met him halfway. They spoke in low voices too far to hear, but Vela could feel something was wrong. When Marek came back inside, he looked tired. "Who was that?" Vela asked. "A warning," he said. Sitting down, "They told me to stop." "Stop what?" "Stop giving hope to the broken." Vela clenched her fists. "I'm not broken," Chu said quietly. "I know," Marek replied, "but they don't want others to believe that." That night, someone tried to break into the lab. An alarm beeped once, then stopped. Marek woke up instantly, grabbing his tool-turned weapon. He found the backlock tampered with, scratched with strange symbols. Vela came running, her metal legs clicking on the floor. "Are we safe?" she asked. "For now," he said, checking the locks again. He looked at her and added, "But they're testing us." The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No more visitors, no signals. But both of them felt the weight in the air. Something was coming, something bigger than a warning. One afternoon, as Vela walked alone in the garden outside, she met an old traveler. He was hunched, with silver skin and glowing green eyes. He carried a bag of broken machine parts and spoke softly. "You're the one with the legs," he said. Vela stopped, unsure. "You've heard of me?" The old man nodded. "They say you are proof that pain can turn into power." He looked around and whispered, "But be careful, child, when the powerful feel threatened. They strike, and they don't strike fair." Before she could ask more, he walked away, gone like a shadow. Vela told Marek everything. He didn't seem surprised. "I've worked in many parts of the galaxy," he said. "I've made friends and enemies." He looked at her seriously. "They'll come for you. Not because of your legs, but because of what you represent." "What do I represent?" she asked. "Hope," Marek said simply. "A hope that slaves can be free, that broken bodies can rise, a hope that the ones they throw away might fight back someday." Vela didn't sleep well that night. Her dreams were filled with fire, chains, and a voice calling her name. But when she woke up, she didn't feel fear. She felt ready. She walked to Marek's lab, stood tall, and said, "I want to train more, not just walking, fighting, protecting, surviving." Marek looked at her, surprised but proud. "Then we begin now," he said. He built her new attachments, stronger joints, faster sensors, and armor plates for her legs. They practiced together everyday balance drills, movement in zero gravity. Close combat. Vila fell often, but she never stayed down. Each time she got back up, she remembered the voices at the auction. Not breeding material, too broken. Garbage. And she smiled to herself because she was still here, still rising. And next time they came, she would be ready. The night sky over the hidden base was too quiet. Even the stars looked still. Marek watched the motion sensors for hours, eyes heavy but alert. Vela sat beside him, checking her new reinforced leg armor. She had trained every day since the warning. Now her steps were strong, silent, controlled, suddenly. The alarm lights blinked red. 3 signals appeared on the radar. Fast-moving ships coming straight for them. "No ID," Marek whispered. "They're not friendly." He turned to Vela, serious but calm. "We need to go, now." She didn't hesitate. Together, they gathered a bag of emergency supplies, food, tools, medicine, and backup power cells for her legs. Marek opened a hidden hatch on the floor that led to the escape tunnels. "Follow me," he said, grabbing a small blaster as they crawled through the metal tunnel. The first blast hit the base. The ceiling shook, dust falling around them. Vila flinched but kept moving, her hands gripping the floor. Another explosion shook the ground. "Marek," she shouted, "they're destroying everything." "I know," he said. "Not stopping, we can rebuild, but we have to survive first." They exited the tunnel into the forest. The night wind was cold, carrying the smell of fire and smoke. From a hilltop, Vila turned and saw the base her home burning. The flames lit up the sky like angry stars. She felt her heart sink. That was my room. My bed. The place where I first walked again. Marek placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "They want to erase everything you've become, but they can't," she whispered. "Because I'm still standing." They moved deep into the woods. Into a cave Marek had prepared long ago. He activated the cloaking system, hiding the entrance. Inside, it was dark and cold. But safe for now. Vela sat on a rock, breathing hard. Her legs were dirty, scratched but working. Marek lit a small fire using an old plasma tool. The light flickered, casting shadows across the stone walls. "I should have seen this coming," he said, staring at the flame. "They were never going to let us be. They hate me because I walk." Vela said, her voice trembling. "No," Marek replied. "They hate you because you give others the courage to try." Silence fell between them for a while. Then Vela asked, "Why did you save me?" Marek looked up, surprised. "No one ever asked you that before?" She shook her head slowly. "Not once." He sat beside her and spoke softly. "The first time I saw you, lying on that cold floor, I felt something I can't explain." "Pity?" "No," he said quickly. "Respect. You weren't crying, not even when they laughed at you. You had no legs, no protection, but your eyes. They had fight. I've worked on machines all my life, but you weren't a machine, Vela. You were real. You were strong, even if no one saw it." Her throat tightened. She looked away, blinking back tears. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. "Then let me say it again," he said, turning to her. "You're strong, Vila, not because you walk, but because you survived, and I will protect you no matter what it takes." She looked at him. Their faces closed in the flickering light. Her hand touched his. Warmth filled her chest. "I don't want to be alone anymore," she said. "You're not," he whispered. That night, something changed between them. Not with loud words or sudden kisses, but with quiet understanding. A promise unspoken in the morning. Vela stood at the mouth of the cave. Looking out at the trees, birds sang like nothing had happened, but her world had changed. Her home was gone, but Merrick was still here. She turned back and said, "We can't stay hidden forever." "No," he agreed, "but we can plan." They began building against small machines for scanning, tools for mapping safe zones. Iraq sent coded messages to old friends, other humans, and even some alien rebels who had once been slaves. Vela trained harder, faster combat drills, sharper reflexes. She painted her legs with her own colors, blue lines like waves, red dots like stars. "This is me now," she said, proud. One night, while sitting by the fire again, Merrick took her hand. "I made a choice when I saved you," he said, "and I made a promise I'll never break." Vela looked at him. "What promise?" "That you'll never be thrown away again." She squeezed his hand and replied, "Then I promise too. I won't let them take you from me either." The fire crackled, their eyes locked. The galaxy outside was full of danger. But in that cave, there was something stronger, hope. And that hope was ready to fight back. The forest was quiet after the attack. But inside Vela's body, something had begun to change. She noticed it first when she couldn't keep her food down. The second time, she fainted while training. The third time, Marek made her sit down, worried lines across his face. "You're not sleeping enough," he said, placing a hand on her forehead. Vela shook her head. "I feel strange." Marek. He ran a full scan, his eyes moving fast over the screen. Then he stopped, staring, his hands frozen. "What is it?" she asked. Feeling her chest tighten, he turned to her slowly, his voice quiet but serious. "Vela, you're pregnant." The cave went silent. Only the soft wind outside made a sound. Vela blinked, unsure if she heard him right. "No, that's not possible." "You're healthy enough now," Merrick said gently, "but I was told I was defective," she whispered. "They said I couldn't. Ever." "They were wrong," Merrick said. "So wrong." Vela stood slowly. But her legs shook. Not the mechanical ones, but her own body trembled. She moved to the cave wall and leaned against it. Her hands touched her stomach. She felt nothing, but somehow she knew it was real. A child inside her, alive. Marek walked toward her, careful, gentle. "I didn't mean for this to happen so soon," he said. "I never wanted to hurt you." "Vela," she shook her head. "You didn't. You gave me a chance to live again." She turned to face him. Tears filled her eyes, not from pain, but confusion. "I don't know how to be a mother." "I don't know how to be a father," he replied with a small smile. "But we'll learn together." The next days passed in quiet wonder. Vela asked 100 questions about nutrition, about the child, about risk. Merrick studied her. Scans daily, updating her legs with smoother motion so she could rest better. He built soft resting chairs and gave her warm tea with calming herbs. But outside, danger was still growing. The people who had attacked the lab hadn't forgotten her. They had spies, informants, and money. And now they knew something more terrifying than her walking again. She was carrying life. A child born from a broken alien and a human. A child they would never accept. Merrick received a secret message from a rebel contact. They're offering credits for her capture. It said, dead or alive, they want her gone. Merrick's blood turned cold. He told Vela everything. She didn't panic. She sat quietly, one hand on her stomach, and said, "Then we protect our child." That night, she dreamed of a child small, with soft hands and bright eyes, running through fields, laughing free. She woke up with tears on her cheeks and a fire in her heart. Marek prepared the ship they had. Hidden in the forest, old but still strong, it could take them far beyond the reach of slavers and breeding masters. He programmed it for a safe planet where humans and aliens lived together, a place called Alaris. But before they could leave, something happened. One morning, Vila woke up to a strange feeling in her chest, like pressure, like someone squeezing. Her heart. Marek checked her vitals and frowned. "There's a tracking signal," he said. "Someone placed a tag inside your old leg stumps. Before you came to me." Vila looked down at her body, horror in her eyes. "All this time, they've been watching." "Only when they activate the signal," Marek said. "And now they know exactly where we are. They had hours, maybe less, before soldiers arrived." Marek moved fast, removing the old metal parts that had come with her body. He burned the trackers in a small furnace, watching them melt. Vela stayed still, strong even through the pain. She looked at Marek with calm eyes and said, "If I die today, promise me you'll protect the baby." "You're not dying," Marek growled. "Not today, not ever." He packed the ship while she rested. As the engines warmed up, they heard the sound of ships above. Dark shapes flew through the clouds, searching, closing in. Marek helped Vila into the seat, strapping her in. "Hold on," he said, taking the pilot's chair. The engines roared to life. The forest shook as fire burst from the back of the ship. Trees bent and cracked. Animals fled. The ship rose into the air, fast and fierce. Behind them, blaster shots rained down. One hit the wing, causing sparks. Another struck the rear panel. Marek shouted, "Shields up." The ship pushed higher, breaking through the clouds into the black sky. Vila held her stomach, whispering softly, "We're going to be safe, little one. Hold on." And just like that, they were gone. But they didn't fly away in fear. They flew with purpose. With new life growing inside her, with new strength in her heart. They weren't just running anymore, they were going home. The ship broke through the clouds and entered space, but it wasn't smooth. Warning lights blinked on the dashboard. Sparks flew from the control panel. The engine made a low, groaning sound. "We can make it," Marek said through clenched teeth. Vila held her belly tight, whispering comfort to the small life inside her. After hours of tense flight, they finally saw it, Ilaris. A small green and blue planet glowing with life. It wasn't big, but it was known as a safe place. A world where humans and aliens lived together in peace. Where old rules didn't matter and new beginnings were possible. They landed near a quiet village surrounded by silver trees. A group of locals rushed out, some human, some alien, some mixed. One woman, tall and kind-eyed, stepped forward. "You're safe now," she said. "We've been waiting for you." Marek helped Vila down from the ship, holding her steady as she stepped onto the soft grass. She felt it under her feet, real earth. Not metal, not cold. Her legs adjusted to the new surface. And she smiled. "I'm walking," she whispered. "I'm really walking." The villagers gave them shelter. A small home by a stream, simple but peaceful. Marek set up a small lab again, not to build weapons, but to help others. Vila helped him. Even while her belly grew round with life, she moved slower now, but stronger than ever. Days passed like dreams. Vela would sit under the stars, feeling her child move. Sometimes she cried. Not from pain, but from joy. She had come so far, from chains and cages to this freedom. Family, love, she often spoke to the baby. "I was told I couldn't have you," she'd whisper. "They said I was too broken, too useless, but you are here. And I will never let anyone take you from me." Then the day came. It started with a sharp pain and a cry. Marek rushed to her side, calling the village healer. Hours passed slow. Heavy, painful, but finally, under the soft light of a twin moon, the child was born, a girl, small, quiet, but with eyes wide open. She had her mother's eyes and her father's calm breath. Vela held her close, her whole body shaking. "She's perfect," Marek said, tears falling down his cheeks. Vela looked at him and said, "She is proof that broken things can still bloom." The village celebrated. They danced, sang. and lit small lanterns that floated into the night sky. For them, this wasn't just a birth, it was hope. Reborn, as weeks passed, Vela walked through the village holding her baby. Everyone knew her story. She was no longer the girl thrown on a cold floor. She was a symbol of strength, of survival, of love. One day, the village council asked her to speak. Vela stood before a crowd of beings from many worlds, her child. In her arms, Marek at her side. "I was born during war," she said. "I lost my legs, my family, and my voice. They said I was nothing. They called me waste, but a human saw me. Not as broken, but as alive." She paused. Her eyes meeting the crowd. "I now walk, not just because of metal legs, but because someone believed in me, and now I believe in others." The crowd was silent, hanging on her every word. If you've ever been told you're too weak, too strange, too broken, remember me, because I was all those things once, and now I am a mother. Tears filled the eyes of many. Some clapped, others placed hands on their hearts, and from that day on, Vela was no longer just a survivor, she was a leader. A voice for the forgotten. Together, she and Marek raised their daughter. In peace, the child grew fast, smart, and curious. She had a light in her that warmed everyone around her. Sometimes, Vela would watch her run across the grass and think of the auction floor. How cold it had been, how empty she had felt. But now, everything was full. She would turn to Marek, who always stayed close, and whisper, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did," and Marek would smile and reply, "Thank you for rising when no one else could." They didn't forget the past, but they didn't live in it either, because the future was already walking beside them.